I'm John.
It's our YouTube channel. Subscribe to it. Give this video a like.
You know, if you're watching this, they say up to 50% of people don't even realize they're not subscribed to the page. So subscribe to the page and also check out the podcast below in the description.
We are sponsored by Tito's Handmade Vodka. #1 vodka in America. Crafted to be savored responsibly. John, let's check in on Khalil Mack and the Bears, the Niners opponent this week, as it turns out. Ian Rappaport on Wednesday tweeted, Khalil Mack not expected to play this week. Give his ailing foot a rest. Giving him 3 weeks while on IR to heal and rehab is being discussed. A significant blow to Chicago's defense. Matt Nagy said, we're working through everything with Khalil. No decisions yet on his status. You did a quick Twitter search and just wrote in Khalil Mack and told me you got to find this tweet. Evan Sowards wrote, the universe is literally daring Kyle Shanahan to win a football game at this point. It's a good tweet.
Guy, who am I?
Mike McGlinchey?
Mike McGlinchey.
I knew it. That's a good one.
Mike
You ever play
McGlinchey.
charades together, John? That's the one.
Underrated part about Khalil Mack's season, obviously the Bears, it feels like, not that the Niners aren't, but are kind of teetering toward a disastrous season. He's been really good. He has 6 sacks. I think he has a sack a game for the last 4. He always has been a dominant run player. I had a buddy in the NFL who was scouting the Raiders and watched the tape. He's like, God, Khalil looks like 3 or 4 years ago Khalil. Like the guy that he was that last year in Oakland and then his first year in Chicago. Like he had gotten his juice back. And you and I had talked about, I guess we hadn't really dove too much into the Bears game yet, but that was a matchup that, because the one, it's like, oh, Khalil will just, and who knows if Trent's going to play, just like he'll be over Trent. Well, I've watched Khalil most of his career, and he likes that right side a lot because he feasts on those guys. And I would say McGlinchey, if you said, like, who's the worst possible matchup for Mike McGlinchey? I'd be like, yeah, healthy Khalil Mack. A 6'2", powerful guy with speed. Like, I could see McGlinchey getting tossed. Like, if you told me Khalil over under 2.5 sacks, I don't think taking the over, if he was healthy, rolling like he was.
And no Kittle.
Oh, my. Dwelly flying one way and McGlinchey getting driven back into Jimmy. It would have been a long day. Kittle would have helped a lot, right? Just to hit him. Because McGlinchey one-on-one with a healthy Khalil Mack is a disaster for the Niners. It really would have been.
Feels like a good opportunity to play Trey Lance, but we'll see if he's healthy.
It also feels like an opportunity, I would say. Their head coach right now tested positive. Looks like, just watch him, he's asymptomatic or whatever, but he's not around the team.
No, now, and they're very mad. A lot of people are upset, John. He won't reveal his location.
Wasn't he probably at home?
Probably, but he won't say, apparently. Apparently, I'm just reading some Bears Twitter. Like, it's like, why won't he say where he is?
So their offense is in shambles. Olin Kreutz is like their version of Joe Staley in Chicago. I mean, they are just shitting on the team's effort and just desire after Aaron Rodgers made fun of them. And then I guess Jim Nantz and Tony Romo last week were making fun of them. And then clearly Tom Brady made fun of them when they scored. I think it looked like they had 28 points before you could even look up at the score. It was 21-0 like that. So their team, you think the Niners are in shambles. They have a couple things going for them. Roquan Smith has been awesome, and Khalil Mack has dominated. To me, the excuses for Kyle this week, this would be, you and I talked about it before we hopped on, a Tom Sula level loss, like a pretty embarrassing moment for Kyle Shanahan's career.
It'd be the worst loss of the Niners era, or the Shanahan era, to lose to the Bears.
By a probably pretty wide margin, would you say? What would even be number two? If the Super Bowl is a bad loss, like that's not a bad loss, Yeah,
the Super Bowl's a bad. This would be the most embarrassing loss of the era. I don't know what the close second would be.
Khalil Mack. I mean,
yeah, and just a team in disarray, like they're in shambles right now.
Well, they're averaging 14 points a game. Do you know there's only 2 teams in the NFL that average less points about them? And when you think jokes in the NFL, like jokes, the 2 teams that even Dan Campbell is like, they're fighting. To me, you think the Texans.
Right.
And probably more than any other team is the Jets. And those are the only 2 teams that score less points than the Chicago Bears. Yeah. Chicago Bears are not scoring more than 15 points a game, guy. Not 15 points a game.
Well, there's a gap. There's actually a 3-point gap, a 4-point gap between them and 29th. So they are 30th by a wide margin.
When even the Niners, who we talk about like their offense is kind of in shambles right now, they are in the 20s. right? I think they're averaging 22 plus points.
Yeah,
right?
22 and a half. Yeah. Which is also ranked, I think, 19th or 20th.
Pretty low, yeah.
Yeah, it's bad. But if Khalil Mack doesn't play, even if Khalil Mack does play, it's clear he's not close to 100%, right? But if he doesn't play, then you're in the same boat, right? Like, yeah, Kittle's out or Trent Williams, and you got guys hurt. So do they. Yeah, there's a lot of heat. Who knows? And I'm not being funny when I say this. Maybe if Matt Nagy doesn't coach the game in some weird way, does it relieve some pressure on the team? I don't know. They've had this situation the last 2 weeks where they, in the headset, told Justin Fields there were too many men on the defense, snap the ball. And he did, and it turned out they'd miscounted. There weren't too many men, and he threw a pick because he thought it was a free play last week.
Was it 2 weeks in a row he threw a pick? Definitely just the pick this week.
I don't know if it was 2 weeks in a row he threw a pick, but there was that story has happened 2 weeks in a row. Which, in fairness, it's like, do you go to it like 2, 4, 6, 8? Oh, shit, that linebacker moved. Do I count that guy again? It's hard. But it's they got problems. They have problems plus. I mean, Nagy's been on the hot seat now for a few years. They have the young quarterback.
Yeah,
right?
To me, this is the added
you didn't
element,
draft,
though.
by the way. That's the other part of if we call it a bad loss. Like you didn't take the guy they have. So if that guy like rips you up, and for some reason, right? If Justin Fields plays well,
and he's been
an ideal part of the.
as I was someone pounding the table to take him just because of his physical talent. I might end up being wrong on that. He has been. It looks like now they have, like you said, offensive just clutter before he ever showed up. Their offense was kind of took a lot of heat in the great city of Chicago that people were not happy. Now, in fairness, the organization I don't think's ever been good on offense, but
they've been looking for a quarterback since 1985.
Their rookie, like, he has not been very good. He is like, when you watch him if you're just sitting on your couch and you throw on Justin Fields, you can, even if you're a Justin Fields fan, you go, this is going to take a little while, right? So if he were to beat you, Kyle's taking shrapnel. He's taking bullets. He's taking heat right now from everyone who supported him. It feels like they're turning on him. This would feel, I don't even want to think about it because it's people that talk a lot about the team and him specifically. It would start getting really ugly really fast. You need to find a way, honestly, to kind of have one of those, like, could you win a game like 30-17 or something? You just win a game by a couple scores.
Yeah, I think that's an element too. Like,
could you just be up in the third quarter like 24-7? One of those, right? Where you're just like, okay, they're just
show you're different than them.
Yeah, because record-wise, they're 3-4, right? They're not a one-win team. They've won football games.
Yeah,
they have more wins than the Niners.
Well, if you don't win this game, then A, there's no way you can play Jimmy Garoppolo the next week. But B, it's like we are almost in November.
If you don't beat the Bears,
your season is over.
If you don't beat the Bears, are we talking about like a 5-win team?
Yeah, if you don't beat the Bears, what good would that be to say?
Well, if they don't beat the Bears, they play the Cards next week. We're recording this before Thursday Night Football. Let's assume, the Packers had 17 guys on the COVID list. They would be, what would they be, 8-0? What would that line be? Cardinals by a touchdown? The game's in Levi's, but still,
No, because it's in Levi's. How many games did they win in Levi's the last 2 years? 1?
Yeah, they would be a pretty big underdog.
I think they're going to beat the Bears, John. I think they're going to beat the Bears. This is setting up for them to beat the Bears.
This is it's crazy to say, but a throw the kitchen sink and do whatever you got to do to find a way to win this game pretty comfortably.
Yeah, and
you need to get the boys
win it comfortably. That's a good point. Don't be up by 10 and pack it in. Although you could argue just run the football is how you're going to get the lead, so do that. Khalil Mack, we're rooting for you. We love you, but for the Niners' sake, we don't want to see you.
They're going to have some cap space. Could they, I don't
trade
know what
Khalil?
his value. Yeah, next in the offseason.
I don't think it's crazy.
He'll be on a different team sooner or later, don't you think? Especially if they get a new administration.
What's funny is I tweeted like Khalil Mack wishing he was on the Raiders, and Raider fan replied like, "No, we're good.
You don't think they'd take Khalil Mack?
We got Max Crosby."
The problem for Khalil, big picture trade-wise, they restructured a bunch of money. Actually, this year was the big year. Next year's cap hit's 30. Yeah, it's not. I think a team with a rookie quarterback would definitely be interested in Khalil Mack to take that money off their books. He's a tradable asset for sure.
What are they?
And he might not be as high as you'd think. Second round pick, maybe?
Yeah.
He is older. He's 30 years old. He's battled some injuries now. He's got a lot of wear and tear on that body. You would love to do the Belichick for like Randy Moss, but he's still good enough that if he's healthy, right? Now, if he goes on IR and misses a ton of games, that would limit his value.
I mean, after this year, 2022, $30 million cap hit, $24 million dead cap. So he's not going anywhere that year. 2023, $28 million cap hit, 11.6 dead cap. Not great, but you could, depending on what you paid for him, look at it almost like a 2-year. You're adding Khalil Mack for 2 years.
I think there are rules too. Like, I think you incur that big hit the first year, and then I don't think the second and third year, once he's off the books, it changes with the dead cap. You'd have to ask like a cap manager on that one, but I don't think the next 7 years. Like, I don't think the Eagles hold on to Carson Wentz for the next 4, like his dead cap stuff. But you do that hit. I mean, the Eagles I think the Eagles and the Rams were like the biggest dead caps in history with their 2 quarterbacks. They were over 30, both of them. So 24 is pretty big.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm not saying. I mean, 24, you'd have to just eat that. But
do you think they would trade 24 dead cap? The cap's $210 million. That's like 20% of your cap. Or 10% of your cap.
It depends. If they were to fire Nagy and like really begin a rebuild with Fields and get a new coach, then it makes sense to trade him if you can get whatever a second round pick for him, or even a first. But like, to me, if you could get a second, you basically buy that pick is what you do.
Yeah.
And you go, well, is that too much to pay for that pick? Probably, but like, what's the alternative? Keep him around. He's not totally healthy. You're not winning. What's the point?
Yeah, to me, if you can't get a first-round pick for him, which I think at his age, the way analytics are now, like when we were kids in the 90s, 30-year-old Khalil Mack would get a 1 for sure. You probably could get like, could I get a second this year and a 3 next year? Could I just get some assets to like help me build back my team? And I think probably. And hell, like teams like, we're just mentioning good teams. You don't think teams like the Jets or the Jags? I mean, there'd be a ton of teams interested, right? That have
telling me Gettleman isn't interested.
The Texans, yeah,
the Giants.
I think a shitload of teams would be.
It's too bad, John. I mean, he is a star. There's no question. But he was 15 sacks, 11 sacks, 10 sacks, 12 sacks in a 4-year stretch from his second year in the league till his 4th year in the league. And it's just, I'm not.
Was he on pace this year? He had 6 sacks. I mean, he was on pace for probably 15 sacks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's just, but I'm saying the Bears have just not been good enough. I don't feel like we got Primo, Von Miller, Broncos were legit, and we just yeah. And it's never quite come together in that way for any, for like a 3 or 4 year stretch in his prime. Like we just passed through Khalil Mack's prime.
Sad.
Crazy.